I'm Pete, CTO, co-founder of Instant.io. It's great to be back at SevZero. I was here very fleetingly last time. My daughter had just been born, so I managed to see some of you, but it was a literally fly in, fly out turnaround. It's great to be here and be able to spend the full day, especially because we have some absolutely amazing things to show you from the product team. So, onward. Speaking of the product team, this is them behind me. Obviously, I get to stand up on the stage with a couple of them, but these are the folks that put in all the hard work and what you're about to see. And for such a small team, I'm consistently blown away by the amount that they can get done. It has literally been for the last couple of weeks, almost 24/7. But regardless, I think really impressive work. And some of them have flown over from London as well. It's where a lot of our engineers are, and you can go talk to them in the break to see this demo in action up close. Before we do that, though, I want to sort of wind back the clock, as it were, and talk about some of the early days of Instant.io and take us on a bit of a journey to where we are today. Stephen touched on some of this earlier. I spent a lot of my career on call, as have Stephen and Chris, and the experience that we had was that coordination, communication, these were the main problems that we'd experienced. And so naturally, that's where we started when we kicked off Instant.io. And that grew into the product now known as Response, focused on better coordination, communication, automation. And I think it was a huge step up. Single source of truth, all your incidents in one place. And since then, over 170,000 people have solved nearly 500,000 incidents with Instant.io. And I think that's pretty cool for one product. But naturally, customers always want more, as you do, very rightfully. And so, one of the integrations we had with status pages got a lot of pull for, what if you took the same craft and quality you've put into your main product and you built a status page product? And we said, you know what, you guys are right, we should do that. And after, putting that together a few years in, we're now at the point where some of the most well-known brands in the world trust us with their customer comms. You see a few up there, OpenAI, Square, many others, many of them in this room. And we're looking at, 600 million visits a year to status pages hosted on Instant.io, coming up on 1 billion probably over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, which is pretty cool again for product number 2. Then comes product number 3. Not content with status pages and Response, the next most popular feature request we have ever had is, please, for the love of God, can you build a better paging product? And again, we felt the same way. We really wanted to do this. This was one that we pushed a little bit further back and we wanted to get right. And so we waited until sort of March 2024 to do this. We launched it. And since then, we're about 18 months later now, 72% of the customers on our platform have moved over to Instant.io on call, both enterprises, commercial, smaller customers. And 90% of the paging that happens for anyone using Instant.io happens directly through our on-call mobile app, which I think is pretty cool. The final thing I want to touch on, and this is very relevant to some of the stuff you're about to see, is, as Stephen showed earlier, we have some foundational capabilities as well. So you're thinking workflows, insights, reporting, integrations, and catalog, which I've highlighted here. And the real goal of catalog is, to do 2 things. One, be a really powerful way to bring third-party data into Instant.io. Up until the point we had catalog, we were pretty much just all about incident data. Catalog was the first time that we'd brought in CRM data, we'd brought in support data, and we started to weave that directly through the platform so that you could automate, when we get paged, look up the ID in my customer database and figure out who this customer success manager is, pull them into the channel automatically. Suddenly, Workflows gets a massive upgrade. And this is particularly relevant for a second reason, which is if you're going to go and invest heavily in AI and systems that can dig into how bad is this incident, this is the exact kind of data that you need in order to be able to do a good job of that. As Stephen touched on earlier, there are really kind of 2 reasons that we've done all of this, if you look over the whole product suite as it stands today. One is to help you run a great process. I think, if I was to score us, I think we've done a pretty good job of this. I think, hundreds of thousands of users and, almost 500,000 incidents would suggest that that is the case. The second is to help you fix the problem faster. And as Stephen mentioned, this, I think, we've helped in a way, having a more coordinated incident, having better comms, it does help you fix it faster. But it always felt like we were one step removed from the messy stuff, the fiddly, like, what is actually wrong? What is actually happening in our logs and telemetry? We were very reliant on people telling us that and then us helping them do the rest of the way. And so this is the thing that we've always had our eye on. And it's really kind of been a thing where we didn't feel we were in a position to go after it. Sure, machine learning, AI, etc. But until recently, with the rise of things like LLMs, we didn't really have the technology to go do this stuff really well. I think all of that has changed in the last year or 2. And what we're about to show you is how you can take LLMs and leverage all the context that we already hold, that positions us really well to go after this second part of the problem space. And if you do both really, really well, what does that look like in an end-to-end incident response platform? So the first thing that we're going to show you today, and there's going to be three, is going to be AI SRE. This is our investigative agent, that's a mouthful, that works to find and fix incidents better right alongside you. As with all things AI right now, the devil is in the details, I think, right? We've all seen enough kind of demos, videos, things where it's like, trust me, it works. You can't come touch it. Don't ask me questions. Perfect conditions, I think, don't make for a good conference. Also, Stephen just outright said, you have to do it live, to which my response was, I won't tell you what my response to Stephen was at that point, but he repeated it so much that we've ended up doing it live. So whether this goes brilliantly or terribly, it's all on him. And we're going to throw caution to the wind, and we're going to do all of it live. So my bit's going to be live, and Ed's going to do some, and then come back to me at the end. It comes with a risk, but I think it's worth it. See by my face at the end whether or not I agree with what I've just said. So onwards, enough talk. Let's go break some stuff in production. So I'm using the Instant.io mobile app. So in a few moments, I'll probably get a page. It's a real one. This is our production account, literally with Instant.io. And I'm expecting in a minute to hear one of the dulcet tunes from the Chainsmokers. Huh? Oh, sorry. Well, that was well timed. Cool. You guys can't actually see the notification because of how the mirroring works, but let me jump into the mobile app anyway. The first thing you can see is inside Instant.io. I have the opportunity to acknowledge. I'm going to do this. We've all done this millions of times. And I'm going to jump straight into the Slack channel and see what's going on. The first thing you'll notice is that AI SRE is already at work on this incident. It's just like I normally would analyze the error. It's looking at recent changes, pull requests. It's jumping into dashboards. It's checking to see if there's anything relevant mentioned in Slack. And just like I would be, it's going, I know I've seen this somewhere before. When have I already solved this? And I'm sort of, 10, 15 years into running incidents at this point. But even on my best day, like with all the tools available, a coffee in my hands, fresh brain first thing in the morning, I can't look at 10 tabs at the same time. I can't log into 5 systems at once. I can't wrangle 2FA while doing something else. And I can't certainly process like thousands of data points, right? I'm just a person. In comparison, AI SRE can do all of that, and you can see it happening live on stage right now. This is real, by the way, so fingers crossed. It's using everything it learns to come up with the best guess at what's happening. And normally what I would do at this point is probably jump straight into the desktop just to get a slightly better view of what's going on. So let's do that. We've hived off this incident into a separate channel just so you don't have to look at our production account. And if I jump in, you can see AI SRE sort of continues plugging away here. Now, one thing to call out is that what's happening here, these individual checks that you see happening, little like nice spinners, these are not one-shot prompts. These are not a deterministic series of steps. My team didn't write these. They've essentially built the agents. They told them how to work together. And the rest is all non-deterministic from AI SRE. Behind what you're seeing here is a bunch of multi-agent systems analyzing huge amounts of information, thousands of pull requests, Slack messages, the works. And they're kind of then coming back together in a kind of scatter-gather mode with another agent going like, what do you know? What have you found? What have you found? Can we pull all that into a view on what's happening in the incident? And you can see that's exactly what's happened here, which even at this point, I think is pretty cool. And I think the team deserve a round of applause for getting here. So it's given me a first pass, and you can see it'll keep investigating as more information comes in. It's given a first pass on what's going on, what's caused it, and a couple of next steps here. And all the screens have just gone black. I didn't expect that bit to be the thing that broke. But thank you for keeping me on my toes. Okay, let's carry on. The nice thing about this is you get incredibly bespoke observations and suggestions. So rather than this just being a playbook where you chuck some stuff into ChatGPT and it gives you some like run-of-the-mill output. Do I need to pause, guys? Well, Yeah, spoken like someone who has been at many conferences. Thank you, Molly. So you get incredibly bespoke insights as a result of this, right? This isn't just kind of, lob some context into an LLM. You're going to get things that only my organization would know, that would only be relevant to us. It's going to tell me you should run the script that Martha ran last month for a similar incident because it looks like it's going to be the same root cause and I think it might fix it. It's going to do things like suggest we pull in Lisa because last time when, this particular thing came up, she got pulled in too late. And as a result, the incident was 10 times as worse. And it's going to do things like say, last time I saw error rates this bad for this service, it resulted in a multi-day $1 million outage. So you might want to get a status page up and running right now. These are the kind of unique insights that you just can't achieve by, taking an exception from Sentry and lobbing it, at one of the many fantastic frontier models. Although obviously we do use all of that under the hood, OpenAI, Anthropic, and others, to power many of the experiences that you're seeing here. The key thing I want to call out is those complicated, incredibly unique situations. Those are the things that we set out to solve with AI SRE. The goal here is not, simple code fixes get solved quickly. The goal here is the really, really hard to unpick stuff that engineers wouldn't know automatically at 2 a.m. They're the things we want to accelerate. So you can see here, not only does it want to tell me what it thinks is going on, wherever we can, we're going to do our best to help you resolve things as fast as possible. And so, for a certain set of changes, and in this case, it's figured out that there's a sort of code change that might be relevant. We just get rid of this random bit of Slack. It can actually put together a pull request for me. So it's going to ask me, you saw some of this in the video earlier. It's going to ask me, do you want me to put together a pull request to help solve the problem? This being a live demo, we are obviously going to say yes. And we're going to see what happens. At this point, I'm going to do a couple of things while it chugs away. So this is the kind of stuff that I would do in reality. For starters, it's obviously figured out what the bug is. So let's say, can you explain the bug in more detail? Also probably, and by the way, this is just, I forgot to even introduce this. It's just me in Autopilot. You can talk directly to it. It's not just an ambient agent. I can ask questions. I can interact with it. It uses all the same AI platform under the hood. Next thing I want to ask, I'm going to ask it, can you give me a better idea of the impact, why did I make this so long, on traffic in the past 15 minutes, for example. So I'll kick that off as well. In the meantime, let's go check out how that bug is getting on. Cool. So it's actually figured out that there's a really kind of nuanced edge case off by one error in the code that's being caused by a bad payload. That's kind of cool. Can you explain it like on 5? I'll call this CTO mode. Okay. I'll give it 2 seconds to come back to me with something there. In fairness, it's not wrong. That's actually pretty good. I can see it's drafted the pull request here, which is pretty epic. And we're going to go take a look at that in just a second. But before we do, let's just take a look at the telemetry that it found. So yeah, this all tracks for what it's worth. It's sort of 10 to 20% error rate. I'm just chucking bad payloads at it. And I can see, the request rate has dropped a little bit and the error rate has massively spiked. So kind of useful graphs. We'll come back to those a little bit later. But let's go look at this. We have a pull request. I think that's pretty cool, like in the grand scheme of things. I can see, it's written out, this is what I found, this is what I think will fix it. And more importantly, it has actually done that. So you saw it was talking about the off by 1 error and some of the maths. It's figured out that this is the suspicious bit of code. It's written tests, which is much more than I've done at some points in my career. And in a minute, this will be a passing PR that will hopefully be able to go on its way to production. For now, I'm going to flip back to Slack. And a couple of things that I would do at this point, probably in addition. Let's do a couple of additional checks that I think Instant is uniquely placed to do here. So I'm going to ask it, let's do, can you check catalog for any upstream dependencies, if I can remember how to spell dependencies. Cool. At this point, it's going to use the information that it's already collected from the code agent earlier on. It's like built its knowledge base as we've gone. And it's going to use the catalog to figure out, well, given this is the code, which features depend on this bit of the code base. And then it's going to say, well, which teams own that feature? And also, are there any other features that depend on that feature? And it's spidering out in this web like you would as an engineer, figuring out what are the potential, knock-on impacts and blast radiuses here. And if I jump into here, I can see Smart correlation depends on the alert insights feature owned by the Applied AI team. Cool. At this point, probably sensible to get them in the room, given that I've just made their day a bit miserable. So I'm going to say, can you page them, please? I think I've broken their stuff. Pretty standard CTO move. At this point, Instant IO is going to go all the way through that chain of reasoning that we just talked about, and it's going to figure out for the team that owns it who's on call right now, and then it's going to page them. And you can see here, I didn't touch anything. It's just done it, and it's paged Rory, whose phone will probably go off somewhere in the audience. I don't know actually where he's sat at this point. And in a minute, there we go. Rory's acknowledged and he's on his way. And so Instant's kept me up to date the entire way through. I can see help is on the way. Yes, I am demoing this right now. If you could handle the PR, that would be great. I only have 2 hands. And so at this point, with Rory kind of figuring stuff out and taking over and actually fixing the problems and taking them out to production, I want to pause and reflect on everything we've just seen, because it's been quite a rapid fire demo. So the first thing is, rather than getting paged with a cryptic error message, figuring out a plan myself, logging into 20 different systems and putting together a picture and then sequentially evaluating one hypothesis at a time, AISRE was on the problem right away. It's checked a ton of different tools and integrations, pulled together thousands of data points, and come up with an initial hypothesis way, way quicker than I probably could have. We were probably talking, if you replay it, it was maybe 2 minutes. Feels like about 3 hours when you're on the stage, but I think it's about that. Rather than going off to figure out who I need, looking into a third-party system to go, which teams own what, and then going into a different system to go, which are the teams' on-call schedules, and then go, who's on call right now, page them, come back, remember that I forgot to tell them what Slack channel I'm working in. Instead, I just told Instant IO, I want whoever's on call for any upstreams of this, and it went and did that magically and automatically. And finally, AISRE literally identified the bug. I didn't tell it to. There's no flowcharts here. It just went, this looks a bit sus. It's probably code. It pulled out some relevant findings, things in Slack, things in GitHub, and it narrowed down what the issue was. And then it fixed it. And all I had to do was say, yes, please. And at this point, to me, this is magic. This is the power of an incident response platform, end to end. And what happens when you weave all of these products together and then you apply really meaningful and well-designed AI on top. And I think at this point, with a bunch of, okay, it's just done it, great. Usually at this point, there's enough information, and if Rory types a bunch in the channel, Instant IO will pick up on the fact that a lot of things have changed, and it'll say, hey, it's probably time for an update. And we won't demo all of these features, but there's a lot of this coordination, communication, kind of advice and steering built directly into the platform. In this case, you can see it's referenced, the telemetry, it's referenced the pull request, it's referenced all the context that it's built up as we've been demoing this. And I'm going to accept that and share the update. At this point, all my stakeholders know what's going on. Brilliant. We can get back to fixing stuff. One thing that I want to be really clear on is, while we've demoed it in Slack, it's just kind of a nice, familiar interface to do it. This is not just Slack, right? This is everything the AISRE has found. It's everything Instant IO knows, and it's all attached to the investigation, which means it's available everywhere in the Instant IO platform. If we go to the dashboard, everything I've just done, I could be doing in there as well. And I'm really excited for Ed to show you some of this a little bit later. But first, I imagine a lot of you are looking at this and being like, how on earth does this work under the hood? And is it really as interesting as you say, and kind of what's happening? So rather than hiding all of that away, I'm going to bring up Lawrence, who's been working on this for the last however many months at this point. And he's going to give you a bit of a behind-the-scenes look at exactly what AISRE is doing under the hood, and everything you saw, or everything that makes what you just saw possible. So, Lawrence.
Hi, I'm Lawrence and I lead AI at Incident. So Pete's spoken about the experience as an incident responder working with AISRE, but I want to focus on a bit more behind the scenes. So what have we built to power this product, and why has it taken us, honestly, about 18 months to get ourselves here? Well, firstly, I think it's worth stating, building a generic incident solver is actually really quite difficult. And we've had to build a ton of internal tools that let us see inside the system so that we can actually understand how it's performing and figure out when it goes wrong, how did it go wrong, and how can we improve it. So to give you a sense of what this looks like underneath the covers, I've actually recorded one of Pete's many demo rehearsals in one of our internal investigation dashboards, which is how we as engineers understand how the product is working. We'll walk back through the incident that you just saw, and I'll stop at each stage so that you can see exactly what's happening under the hood. So what you're seeing here is a real video of an admin-only view, so something that we use as staff on top of investigations, which shows how AI SRE is building its understanding of the incident as it progresses. So naturally, we're starting with the alert. We end up connecting with some of our integration providers. So in this case, it's Sentry, and we reach inside of Sentry and we pull the exception into our system and we start analyzing it to understand what's going on. This is emulating the first steps that you as a human responder would take if you were ever paged in the middle of the night. You probably open Sentry and go, cool, where is this actually happening? What's actually gone wrong? But it's at this point that we've analyzed our alerts that things start getting a bit more interesting and we go beyond what a normal human responder might be capable of. So whilst an experienced responder can look at a Sentry exception really quickly, it's what comes after which is where AI really shines. We're about to start searching thousands of GitHub pull requests. We're going to look through all of the Slack messages from channels that you have connected to the system, and we're going to search them for anything that might be relevant to the incident using what we saw in the alert to try and find good matches. An exhaustive search like this is just not humanly possible. It's certainly not possible inside a time-pressured incident context when you might be really urgently trying to respond to the problem. And with AI, it is possible, but it's not easy. And in fact, you can kind of see on the left, I've taken some of the traces from the investigation checks that we've been running as part of the system. And you can see how we're fanning out all of this work to tens of parallel workers. These workers are then using the indexes that we build continually in our system, having looked at all of your data, so that they can quickly find relevant matches. And then they're pushing them through a ton of different filtering questions, asking things like, does this PR diff look like it could have caused the thing that this incident is about? And we're using frontier models to do that. So it's not just vectorization and pulling stuff out of database. We're actually crunching through the numbers and doing some genuine analysis. If done by a human, this might take days. But thankfully, because of AI and all of our investments in search infrastructure, our prompt tuning and background indexing, we're able to find both the PR that caused this issue and relevant Slack messages in just 20 seconds. It's not just external systems, though. I mean, you all here because you know the value of learning from incidents. And actually, more importantly than these external systems is looking through all of the historical incidents that we have inside of our platform for clues on how to solve this one. So we're not just searching against incident metadata. This isn't like find me an incident where it came from Sentry. What we're doing is we're looking for incidents that match on a variety of different incident dimensions. So we're looking at what type of error is this? What systems are impacted? Even the time of day that the incident is happening so that we can find incidents where we've seen problems like this before so that we can get clues for how to solve this one. We're also not just looking at incident metadata either. When we do these matches, we're looking through everything that happened in those incidents. So we're looking through everything that happened in the incident channel. So all of the messages that you've sent to your colleagues. We're looking at any of the post-mortems that your responders have authored against those incidents. And we're also looking at any follow-ups. So anything that you may have exported to Jira or to Linear, we're looking at that to try and figure out how you fixed this before. We use those incidents that we've gone and found in this search to build an ephemeral runbook, which tells you how you should approach this incident based on how you've approached incidents of this type before. And it's more than just technical details too. It's about who to escalate to, when and if you need to engage with a regulatory body, all the stuff that normally gets forgotten in the heat of the moment in an incident, and you're learning continually from best practices that evolve over time by looking at the incidents that you responded to most recently. Having now found a bunch of useful data, it's time to collate it into a report for responders. This is when we move into what we call the first assessment stage of the investigation. And it's at this point that our scheduler ends up splitting, and it allows long-lived agents like code and telemetry to continue while we prepare our preliminary findings. We're going to iterate on the analysis continually during the investigation. It's not just a one-time thing. In fact, this runs for the duration of the incident, so it can be many hours or possibly even days. The goal is to get responders the most up-to-date understanding of the incident in real time, and we've actually put a lot of effort into trying to get these results to you really fast, so that even in critical incidents where every second matters, we're telling responders exactly what they need to know and giving them actionable advice as soon as we know what we should be recommending to them. All of this means that we get the investigation report that comes into the channel just 2 minutes after the pager fires. Now, thankfully, we've done this analysis, and that is actually before most on-callers get to their laptop. While we've been building our first report, the telemetry and the code agents have been continuing the investigation. We've been broadening our understanding of impact by checking Grafana dashboards and looking at logs, and we've confirmed that the bug exists through analysis of our code base. So that's actually pulling down the code and really genuinely going through the code that is impacted by this bug. This is a multi-agent system, and getting agents to collaborate in real time has honestly been one of the hardest aspects of building this system. Both the code and telemetry agent can stay on task for the duration of the incident, which, as I said, could even be on the order of days. And as they find new information, they end up communicating it back to the main agent as soon as they find it. And that allows us to update responders in real time as they learn and link interesting. So it's around now that we see that the code agent concludes it understands the problem, it matches our incident, and actually it can probably fix it. So we start planning a fix, which is when we actually look at the code and figure out how we're going to change it to try and fix this problem. And as soon as it's ready, we message the channel with a PR, which is what you saw in Pete's demo just before. I want to stress that we're now just 2 minutes and 40 seconds after the incident just first started, so that's pretty quick. I think you'll all agree with me. Now we come into the final iteration of the investigation, and this is when we're going to update our report stating everything that we found. That everything is going to be referencing Lisa's cautionary message about optimizations like this before and how they've gone wrong. It's going to explain why the code is wrong. It's interpreted error rates from Grafana, and it's confirmed that we have a fix ready. What we've done here is we've taken everything a human responder would do as part of responding to this incident, and we've encoded it into AI SRE. But unlike a human responder, AI SRE can exhaustively search anything that you'd ever want to look at and do it before a human has even properly woken up. It's all finished in just 3 minutes, 30 seconds, despite representing about an hour of wall clock time as measured by all of the AI interactions and processing that we've run. That's how it works. But for anyone in the room who's been building AI systems, and I'd imagine that's probably many people, you know getting something working is probably just the start of your journey. By far the most difficult work in the last year has been finding a way to build a system like this and prove that it actually works, that it's reliable, and that when it's running on customer accounts, it's doing the right thing and to catch it when it goes wrong. And that's why we've created an evaluation system that can grade AI SRE. And that system produces a scorecard that looks something like this. So this scorecard grades every aspect of the investigation. It allows us to debug each step as part of the process without ever needing to look directly at incident data, which for us is important because we don't want to be looking at our customers' data, but we do want to know how the system is performing. It's these scorecards that tell us how we're performing in customer accounts, and when we change the system, we'll rerun it against historic incidents across all of our customer base, and we'll use this evaluation system to quantify whether or not we've improved it or if we've introduced regressions so that we can avoid ending up harming the experience and ensure that we're improving it consistently. It's this tooling that allows us to safely upgrade to the latest frontier models as soon as they're out, and we typically do, often within a day of them coming available. And it helps us tune our system for all of our customers instead of overly fixating on a handful. That's a look behind the scenes, and it shows you how much it goes into powering AI SRE. We've had to solve so many hard technical challenges as part of building a system like this. Challenges that, honestly, the industry as a whole is still figuring out. Agentic systems are hard. Multi-agent systems on large-scale data sets with ambiguous problems running with real-world time constraints are about as tough a challenge as that gets. But the great thing about AI SRE being so difficult to build is that it's forced us to solve some really hard AI problems in a general fashion. And that's produced a ton of tooling and a ton of innovations that we can now use to reimagine the entirety of the rest of our product. It's also, for example, how our chatbots feel as smart as they do, because all the work that we've done on the long-lived agents that run as part of the investigation process is exactly what we ended up rolling to the chat experience and why they can solve multi-step problems in a way that you may not have seen in other products before. I'm really, really proud of what we built here, but I'm even more excited about what happens when we take everything that we've learned from building AI SRE and apply it to the rest of the product. I'm now going to hand over to Ed, who's going to walk you through some of the first steps in that direction.
The incident you saw from Pete was a classic example of being paged and jumping straight into investigating. But as you're probably all maybe a little bit too familiar, there are plenty of times when you're actually jumping into an incident midway through, and then you're scrambling to gather all the context you need to and figure out what you might want to do to help. So this next section of the demo, we're going to run through a few examples that show you what the Incident.io platform looks like in those contexts now. Okay, perfect. Looks like we're back. Good to go? Awesome, we're good to go. Perfect. So for this next section of the demo, I'm actually going to start off in my team page in Incident.io. So in the team page, I can see everything that's relevant to me and my team. So that's things like incidents, alerts, escalations. I can also see who's on call and any incidents that are currently affecting my team right now. So in this case, I can actually see 2 incidents. This one down here is the incident that Pete just showed you in that first part of the demo. So that's where I'm going to head to first. Maybe Pete's a little bit rusty nowadays and he could do with some support. Perfect. Cool. So the first thing I'm going to do once I get to this incident is I'm actually just going to jump straight to the investigation. The things that I want to call out here is, one, you can see AI SRE is still working. That's because AI SRE is actually an ambient AI agent. It's constantly working behind the scenes to help you in every way that it can. So as new information is emerging, that's things like messages in Slack, alerts, or changes in your telemetry, AI SRE is using those to inform new investigations, and it will continue working. In the context of investigating the issue, just as Pete was, it will share those new findings with you in Slack. In the context for me right now, where I'm just trying to get up to speed, it means this gives me a constantly up-to-date representation of what's going on in the incident. As I look down the page, I can see a summary of exactly that. So it's going to tell me what's going on, what it think caused it, and what I can do about that next. From here, I can dig into more detail in lots of places, wherever I need to. So first off, I can look into next steps. For each next step, there's a more detailed overview of why I might want to do that next step and exactly what I should do. And there's also useful links in here if I want to jump out and get extra context. As I continue down the page, there are also all of the findings that AI SRE is assembling. These are sort of artifacts that it's using to put together the hypotheses that you've just seen above at the top of the page. These are also visible in Slack as well. So if you look in the thread where we're posting findings, you can see this detail in Slack too. What's really powerful here is I can see all of the breadcrumbs that AI SRE has assembled whilst it's thinking about the root cause. From here, I can see, say, past incidents that are relevant, Slack messages that are relevant. Often there'll be code changes or telemetry here as well. I can look into them and see as much detail as I need to, but also link directly out to the underlying citation as well. Just coming back up to the top of the page, and the final thing I want to show you here is that I can actually just dig in straight to how AI SRE has been reasoning. So if I come here, I can see right at the top, this is the overview that you can see on the same page. But as I scroll down, you can see all of the steps that AI SRE is taking to build up its hypotheses. You can see it's been querying telemetry, looking for similar incidents, searching team messages. These are some of the processes that Lawrence has just shown you. And again, this provides me the detail I need to get up to speed. Perfect. So say in this situation, it looks like Pete's got it, we're in safe hands. So I'm actually going to head back to my team page and have a look at that other incident that's currently ongoing and affecting my team. Cool. The first thing I can see here is that Sam and Martha are actually already working on it. And they're on a call right now. So there's obviously, calls are super important whilst you're responding to incidents, but usually one of two things happens when you jump on a call. Either nobody remembers to take notes, and then everything you discussed can be easily forgotten, or somebody does, but then maybe that's taking up a lot of their time that they could have been spent investigating and resolving the incident. We've solved that problem with Scribe, which is on the call with Sam and Martha right now. So Scribe is a note taker, which transcribes incident calls and summarizes notes, decisions, observations, actions in real time. And you can actually see that directly up on the screen here. So here's what they're currently discussing and some of the key actions or decisions that they've just made. So what this means in practice is I can get a quick overview of what's going on in the call without having to interrupt Sam and Martha. If I need more detail, I can actually just jump into the notes, and I can see the transcript and a full summary and the key points that they've been discussing right here as well. I'm sure you're all very familiar with that feeling, being on a crowded call where people are jumping in at different times. They all have different amounts of context. It can be pretty confusing and also super distracting when you're trying to get work done. But at this stage for me, as someone trying to get up to speed, what I really want to ask is, hey, based on what you're discussing right now, is there anything I can do to help? Well, now instead of jumping in the call and needing to ask that to Sam and Martha whilst they're focused, I can actually just ask that right here in Incident.io. So let's say, based on the recent discussion on the call, is there something I can help with? Just whilst that's thinking, I want to emphasize that this is all based on that same underlying technology that Lawrence has just shown you. And it has incredibly rich context. So it knows about the call, it knows about everything in Slack, and everything that AI SRE has found too. You can see it thinks I'm Peter, just excuse that for a moment. It says, yes, it looks like the team does want my support in this particular situation. So what I'm going to do here is actually go say hello to Sam and Martha and see how I can help. Hey folks, you are live on stage at SevZero. I'm obviously a little bit busy right now, but how can I help?
Well, Ed, for the purposes of today's demo, it is incredibly convenient that you're here.
It's almost like we planned this, huh, Sam?
Yeah, well, we're a bit busy here too. We were wondering, would you be able to help us with sending comms out to the affected customers and update the incident? It'll give Martha and I a chance to get this fixed out. And the incident's looking a bit sad and stale at this point.
For sure, happy to help. Before I do reach out to any customers, do we have a timeline on a fix that we can share with them?
Yeah, Sam's just approved my clear, so I'm going to go ahead and merge it. Should be out in the next 10 minutes if everything goes to plan.
Awesome. Well, sounds great. I'll leave you to it then. Cool. So now I can head back to that incident. The first thing that you're going to see is that Scribe has already updated its notes here with the stuff that we've been discussing. And whilst I was on the call, it was showing that I was on that call as well. So this is all happening in real time. The other thing I want to show you that Scribe is doing as we come down to the timeline is that it's picking out all of the key moments that are being discussed and putting those on the incident timeline automatically. You can imagine just how useful that's going to be when it comes to writing your postmortem later. Instead of having to look through raw transcripts or maybe have no notes at all and try and figure out what happened, you have all this information here by default. Okay, cool. As a next step, maybe I'll actually go and do those things to help out Sam and Martha. In this case, what I want to do is create actions for all the points we discussed on the call and assign them to the right people. So I saw in the notes before that Sam and Martha were already discussing some actions they were taking, but it also sounded like I should help with comms. So from here, I just want to make sure that's all tracked correctly. Again, I just want to emphasize this is able to pull information directly from the call. So everything Scribe is seeing, you can access here as well. The other thing I'm noticing, just whilst this is thinking, is that this name is not very helpful, and I think we can probably do a little better. So yeah, this not super clear, and I think we can do better. So how about we say, can you suggest a better name for this incident? So as well as just being able to change the name here, it's actually able to manipulate essentially all of the attributes on your incident. So it can update the incident for you, write summaries, as you've just seen, create actions as well with assignees. It's all natively integrated with our response product and Incident.io. Okay, yeah, that looks much clearer, so I can go ahead and accept that. In this case, I asked for a suggestion, so that's exactly what it came back with. It's also able to manipulate these things directly, just like it did with the actions there. Okay, cool. Before I actually go ahead and reach out to the customers, I just want to make sure I have a clear understanding of the impact of the incident so far. So let's say, which customers has this incident affected? Again, here, it can be drawing from anywhere actually in the incident context. So maybe this wasn't discussed on the call, but it could have been discussed in Slack. Or maybe AI SRE found this in something it looked into. And there you go. It's able to identify the 5 customers that have been identified. From there, maybe I want to enrich it with even more information, though. So I can do something like search catalog to find the revenue impact for each of those customers. In this situation, this information actually isn't in the context of the incident. It's not in the call, it's not in the channel. But there's an agent here that can go look up those customers in our catalog and then find any related attributes in catalog. That works similarly here for revenue, but I can ask it more questions too, like who are the CSMs for those customers? Obviously, this sort of information is going to really help me in this situation. It's going to help me understand the total impact in terms of revenue, but also say knowing the CSMs will enable me, when I do reach out to customers, to give them the right point of contact to come back to if they have any questions. The way this is working under the hood is all of this information is synced from our Salesforce integration right into Catalog, and then is accessible right here by default. Cool. All of that looks good. Final thing I want to do, there's lots of useful information here. I just want to make sure this is actually captured in a structured way on our incident, so we have it later when it comes to things like analytics. So I'll say, can you update the affected customers field, please? There we go. As I do that, I'm just going to switch straight over to properties and scroll down. And it should, any moment, be able to update those fields directly. So here you have all of those customers marked against the incident. You'll also see we have derived custom fields here as well. So the revenue impact, which we just discussed, has also been summed and added to this incident. Perfect. So I think we're looking good here. At this point, I'm going to hand back over to Pete, who's going to show you the next steps from here once we actually close this incident out and we're ready to review and learn from it.
I guess you saw there kind of a little bit more about what happens, as Lawrence said, when you take some of the underlying technology and you start to bring it to other areas of the product. And that's what I'm excited to talk about for the last bit of this presentation. So the third thing that we're going to show you. And so far, the fact that the only thing that's gone wrong has been literally the HDMI cable, it's very reassuring. So let's head over and see if we can continue the winning streak. So to call it out, a lot of work in postmortems, which is what we're going to talk about now, goes into pulling together tons of information from different sources. Even within Incident.io, Ed showed all the key moments from Scribe. That's great, but if I have to go to a ton of different tools and do endless copy pasting for hours and hours and hours to assimilate all of that into some kind of cohesive story and narrative, it's going to take a ton of time and a ton of work. Inherently not a bad thing. Like postmortems are for learning, and I wouldn't for a second suggest that we get to the end of an incident, we say generate a doc, that's the learning's done. We all know that's not the point. That's not the reason that we write them. But I think a platform like Incident.io could do a ton more to help with potentially that first, gather all the information, do a first draft, give me something to riff on. We all, or for many of us, we work better taking something that's mostly there and helping to make it really, really good. And so that's what we've set out to do. And so, today we're trying to introduce a few fundamental changes to how postmortems work in the platform, specifically around how do we write them, how do we get that first draft put together, how do we learn from them, how do we kind of ask questions, things like that, even if you weren't necessarily in the incident, and how do we collaborate on them as a team, right? These are all things we care a lot about. So I pulled up a recent incident for my team here. And if I hop over into the postmortem tab, we will be presented with this shiny orange button that is desperate to be clicked, which is exactly what I'm going to do, and then flawlessly, this is going to work. So, as you would expect by this point, just to labor it, ASRE is taking all of the context from the incident, except now it's looking at the instructions that we've put in our incident postmortem template, which is already a feature of Incident.io. There we go. I didn't even have time for my patter. Team, you are too quick. But it's taking what we already have, which is a really good template, and we've given guidance for humans. And what it's done is take that and all the context and try to take a first pass. I just want to call out a few things that we're seeing on the screen here. So firstly, this draft is not just text. It's actually managed to interpret a lot of the references, like timestamps, for example. This is the time it was reported at. And that's cool, because it means, rather than a Google Doc or Notion or something like that, we actually know what this timestamp is. It has meaning in the context of Incident.io. And we also have things like durations. Like we know that from the time it was reported to the time it was resolved was about 1 hour, 16 minutes. We know about users. So for example, Tom, I know who Tom is, obviously he's on my team. But in a large company, when I've been in organizations with hundreds of engineers, I've read postmortems where it's referring to people and systems and roles that I don't even understand. I've never seen this before. If I go in here, I can see Tom was the incident lead, and he's from the response team. That gives me a ton of context. If I wanted to, I could jump in and go look him up in catalog, find him in Slack, etc. And then, we obviously reference things like GitHub pull requests. And then other things we can do that I think are kind of cool is, if I were to reference other incidents, for example. So if I were to do Inc. 15126, I can see here, I can pull in past incidents, and I see a nice little, preview hover card. This is the kind of post-mortem specific editor experience that we are able to build as an incident response platform. There's just a notch up from the Notions and the Google Docs that we typically use ourselves at the moment, day to day, pending this, being in production. Well, it is in production, I guess. Other things that I want to call out. I haven't done it here other than adding this, but to call it out, this is obviously an editor. I can say, hey, SevZero, it's real. I think also, things I can do are I can change not just editing the text, but I can edit properties on my incident. How often have you written your postmortem, realized something was wrong, gone and changed it in some other system, then have to go back, update the document, lists drift, timestamps drift, everything gets out of date. because this is all inside the Incident IO platform, if I just go down here and let's see for a second, what can I do? I'm going to pick on this one. So let's say, oh, actually, we realized it was reported, an hour before we said it was. You saw like up here, it was at 11 o'clock. If I go update that timestamp, you see it changes to 10. Now, that is not like wildly impressive, but I think just keeps everything really up to date. What I think is cool is everything updates. So all the durations that depended on that are now completely in sync. And so this is I think the future of what a great postmortem inside an end-to-end platform could look like. Other things that I want to call out, at the bottom, it's not just rendered text. If I keep scrolling down and go show you some other stuff, we've actually rendered the timeline live into the document. Obviously, it can decide what gets shown, what doesn't get shown. I can choose how it gets shown. I can decide to show a little bit more detail here if I want to do that. And it's also listed out, some follow-ups here and shows the real-time synchronous state of where these are at. Have they been done in Jira, in Linear? Like, if you've ever listed out follow-ups in a document and then come back to it later to go, did we actually ever do that stuff? You don't have that question here. It's all live inside the document, even though we're working inside issue trackers elsewhere. Ed showed a couple of things a minute ago, and in chat terms, these are all available in postmortem context as well. Obviously, in addition to all the things that Ed mentioned, it now also, in this context, understands the document, it understands the content, the structure, everything about this. And so I can ask, let's kick off with like a general question. Let's say, are there any follow-ups I've missed? I hope not. So that's like a very, very easy one. It's like, go look at all of the context you hold, look at the follow-ups that we've already listed. Have we captured anything? All follow-ups are tracked, no follow-ups are listed or appear to be missing. Great stuff. I can also, though, ask more specific questions. So maybe I come in without a huge amount of context on, I don't know, these customers, for example. So I can say, let's highlight these, and let's go ask AI SRE, which plans are these customers on? And I will spell plans right just to give it a helping hand. And it can take just that selection, and I can ask a question on just that bit of the postmortem, and it will feed that into the query that it's making, and it will give me really precise, tailored responses. And again, this is not just like pulling it from Slack. This is going to pull it out from Catalog. It's going to link the customer to our CRM data. It's going to go figure out what plans they're on. And you can see here, a lot of enterprise customers, probably not such a great incident. So this is I think, some really, really cool examples of what you can start to do when you bring the power of the AI platform into context, even postmortems, right? There's a huge amount that we can improve. The last things I want to call out, so far it's just been me. It's probably a lot of postmortems in my life that have just been me, if I'm honest. But they're always better if you're doing them with friends, and this is no different. Obviously, the goal of a postmortem is not to do it on an individual basis, it's to collaborate, it's to share the learnings with your team, it's to bring other people into the learning experience. And there's obviously some simple ways we can do that. I can say blocking updates critical to on-call schedules. I can say, I don't know, let's grab Martha. She's already on demo mode. Martha, what does this mean? And obviously, then it will ping Martha and say, Peach commented. We've all used the document editor before, and that's kind of cool. But what I think is really, really cool is that when Martha sort of drops in and replies, she can turn it up in the document, and she can edit everything live. So we have built everything you've just seen entirely real-time and collaborative, and any number of people on your team could pile in and edit this all at the same time. Really, really familiar features, but I think it's really, really cool to combine that with all of the rich details and all the rich features you just had. Martha could be writing this. Someone else could be asking questions. Someone else could be looking at the references and getting up to speed. And if we wanted to, and we were feeling particularly crazy, given that the rest of the demo seems to have gone without a hitch, we could do something like, say, team. If anyone does have their laptop open and you want to pile in, feel free. And everyone else could get involved as well. So yeah, awesome stuff. Postmortems like this are such a rich source of knowledge and information for organizations. They're honestly my favorite bit. I think literally one of the first times I met Chris at Monzo was nerding out in a debrief session. And I think our hope is that with these kind of changes, we're really starting to make this a platform where you can see your incidents through from start to finish. And it goes without saying, I think Ed might have touched on it earlier, but everything you learn through your postmortems and write-ups, everything your team do, all the questions that they ask, all the answers they get, the comments, the extra bits that they're adding here, AI SRE will learn all of that too. The Incident IO platform has that context now. So next time you have your incident, we can be even smarter. That is postmortems. Cool. So that went surprisingly well. What's next? So lots of exciting upcoming product that you've seen there. And to call it out again, we've not fabricated all of this. This is real. You can go to, I think it's Showtime. Tom will kill me if I got that wrong. School night, God damn it. Yeah, you can tell I've been focusing on other things. So yeah, if you go to school night, there's a couple of demo stations set up, and you can literally go and poke and prod and see the team walking through, admittedly, a much more contrived incident in a smaller space. But that was a real one. That was in our production environment, real code, real telemetry, real everything. For those of you already using Incident.io, of which there are many in the room, most of what you saw that was specifically around AI SRE, that's available today. You can try that. Some of you are already trying it. We saw a bunch of quotes from that earlier today. So you should see, if you haven't already, all of that in your account very soon. The rest is coming very soon. We've got a few little bits that we want to clean up and postmortems, but we're talking weeks rather than months. And we're excited to get everything into your hands. Before I close out, I just wanted to let's call it a vulnerable moment. Let's go back 4 years, and I found this old screenshot where I was going like, what did it even look like when we started this thing? Because it's so hard to tell the difference now. So this is a genuine screenshot of the first version of the product that Steve and Chris and I built around, I think it was my kitchen table back in the day. It did a few predefined actions in Slack. It was like a sort of glorified Slack bot with, I think we had one integration with status pages that let me post updates to the web. And a rudimentary web UI. I was really proud of this. The team are probably laughing their heads off given what you've just seen they can do. And if you compare that to today, where we have an end-to-end AI-native incident response platform, it's night and day. I'm so proud of everything the team have built. You guys have absolutely crushed it. And we're only just getting started. We're 4 years in. We're barely going at this point. We have a long way to go. But we're going to get there as fast as we possibly can, just like we have for the last 4 years. And we're planning to get all of this into as many hands as possible, as soon as possible. We're really excited. I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing what we've been up to. I hope it was worth the wait. I'm glad the only thing that went wrong was the AV. Suck it, Zuckerberg. Yeah, if you want to dig deeper, see us in school night. Thank you very much.